Why Floyd struggled against a drunken master. I love me some Floyd, so I gotta see.
Every once in a
I
while,
love
two
boxing, bro. It's
fighters
been
meet
so
with
long.
such
We might have to get
uniquely
immersed in.
different styles and personalities that something amazing happens. The fight seems to take on a life of its own and becomes legendary. Almost no one thought that this would be the case when the young rising star, Pretty Boy Mayweather, was set to take on Emmanuel Augustus, a boxer who had faced impressive competition but had a less than stellar record. But they should not have been the least bit surprised, because Emmanuel Augustus was no true journeyman. He was the Drunken Master. Continuously robbed on the scorecards, Augustus put on outlandish displays of skill anyways. Never bitter, he refused to change his style regardless of how the judges felt about it. Great fighters can get away with incredible displays of footwork and timing, but Augustus could do this while dancing, grooving to a symphony of destruction that only he could hear. It's almost sad he wasn't a modern-day MMA fighter, so we could have seen him breakdance his way into scoring an ankle submission. My video on Augustus's techniques has over 10 million views.
This nigga moving. Look at the sauce on him, man. I was like, I got so immersed in his dance moves, boy. Look at this. This is when it got me.
He refused to change his style regardless of how the judges felt about it. Great fighters can get away with incredible displays of footwork.
You see the little hops
and timing. But Augustus could do this while dancing,
it's that little
moving
hops
to a symphony of destruction that only he could hear.
Oh my.
It's almost sad he wasn't a modern-day MMA fighter, so we could have seen him breakdance his way into scoring an ankle submission.
Oh,
my video on Augustus's techniques has over 10 million views, and he deserves all the credit for that.
Damn.
Having one of the most interesting and skillful styles of all time. The short version is that he was comfortable fighting in any position or range, and stellar at smoothly transitioning between them all. This gave him near infinite possibilities on which direction he could move, how he could implement head movement, and which angles he could set up shots from. In style and temperament, he was the exact opposite of Floyd.
Oh God!
Although Pretty Boy Mayweather.
Oh my! I know y'all see him just smooth with it. He's so smooth with it.
In style and temperament, he was the exact opposite of Floyd. Although Pretty Boy Mayweather was a much more aggressive fighter than Money Mayweather.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
With 17 of his 23 fights ending by knockout, Mayweather's style was always built on calculation and precision. He paired a Philly shell guard with a high guard, and was excellent at
calculating. Money boy is, let me just get my money now. I'm gonna just defend because he's so precise.
He preferred to limit both his opponents and his own offensive options, so that he could bet on his superior smarts, reflexes, and timing to outscore them. He could then get much more aggressive once his competitor had been worn down. While most expected Floyd to have an easy time breaking Augustus down, in reality, the Drunken Master would take Mayweather into a trial by fire. It remained to be seen if he could take
this is a good ass lead up, boy.
The fight got interesting right away.
Although thank you, Zay, for putting me on to Pretty Boy Floyd. You know what I'm saying? Back when I was younger, Pretty Boy Floyd, he really got me into boxing. Floyd Mayweather, he really put me in that shit. Everyone talking about Mike Tyson shit. You know what I mean? That's cool. That's cool. But it was Pretty Boy Floyd for me.
Augustus was the one pressing forward. Mayweather was the more aggressive of the two by far. He unloaded crisp, sharp lead hands, and even the occasional long combination. But for all of that, his punches rarely hit home, and this was all due to the defensive wizardry of the Drunken Master. Augustus feinted and lunged, playing with rhythm to create constant threats and disrupt Mayweather's offensive timing. And although his own Philly shell guard was not as polished as Floyd's, when combined with his head movement and footwork, it was more than enough to get the job done. When was the last time you saw Mayweather miss so many shots?
This is a good ass fight, boy.
Augustus even jumped to switch shift into southpaw just to block one shot before switching right back.
You just see that?
Shift into
look,
southpaw
almost
just to block one.
Look at the hit movement.
One shot. Before
Jump right back.
switching right back.
Scooby.
Meanwhile,
Oh my
the Drunken
God.
Master's broken rhythm
Oh my God. He is just so quick with it, bro. Y'all have to see me move with him. He's like this. Let me show you.
extravagant as always. Augustus even jumped to switch shift into southpaw just to block one shot before switching right back.
Come on, man.
Meanwhile, the Drunken Master's
Come
broken
on,
rhythm
man.
and strange timing was making it
Come on,
hard
Scoop.
for Pretty Boy to time his
Come
own
on, man.
defense. In a few instances, Mayweather got caught with seemingly blatant shots.
Oh my.
By round 2, the Drunken Master was tacking punches onto his stellar head movement. And not just a few. Mayweather's style requires a lot of subtle adjustments predicated on incredible reflexes to stay safe. But Augustus was overloading his capacity to keep up with countless punches from all angles, a ridiculous anime-like tactic that was actually working in real life. However, Mayweather is a master at neutralizing his opponent's offense. He framed against Augustus's head to read him better and freeze him in place, stopping his off-rhythm threats, and following up with well-placed shots the moment Augustus grew too relaxed. In truth, Mayweather was such a sharp boxer that he'd actually tested out this tactic at the tail end of round 1. But when Augustus got hurt, he pressed forward even harder. Floyd is the kind of boxer who loves to take away his opponent's options and simplify the fight to where he can dominate where he's strongest.
Look at
The
this guy.
Drunken Master was the exact opposite. He preferred to force complex exchanges, regardless of if he took damage or not. Smiling all the while because he so enjoyed the thrill of the fight. Mayweather smiled back, perhaps happy that he had finally found someone who would test him. But as it turned out, this was all just preamble. The next several rounds would turn out to be a high-level display of back and forth insanity.
Oh yeah. I'm telling you, it's a good fight.
Big risks and put everything on the line, showing off their best tricks of the trade. Mayweather used some complex footwork of his own, pivoting with his cross to take an outside angle, then framing to off-balance Augustus and stay safe before throwing another shot from offline.
Yeah, he's taking them.
As always, Mayweather showed an incredible ability to catch opponents mid-movement, landing from tight angles that caught Augustus unaware. These punches didn't need a huge load-up to do damage. They hurt because of their timing.
All of them add up.
Augustus had the ability to counter mid-exchange, even after taking a shot. Mayweather had the endurance and concentration to last longer and end the exchange with a punctuation mark. What really helped Mayweather here was just how strict he was in maintaining his balance and positioning at all times. Man. But for all of that, the Drunken Master was putting on a jaw-dropping performance. Mayweather liked to fight on the center line, but Augustus kept finding ways to cross that line.
Yeah, get him out of there.
He linear shifted past Mayweather, turning to catch him from southpaw as he tried to exit the exchange. Speaking of, his ability to adjust his feet to any position
as soon as he's trying to get out of the corner, he's trying to get out of there.
Torso complete range of motion, which meant that it was much easier for him than most to angle in punches through the small cracks in Floyd's armor. As the fight neared the midway point, to the surprise and downright shock of many, both Augustus and Floyd had been hurt. In the 5th, the Drunken Master trapped Mayweather on the ropes and managed to deal more damage and put more pressure on him than anyone had up until that time ever. But Mayweather proved himself to be an incredibly brave fighter with a lot of heart. He endured the barrage and fought his way off the ropes, getting aggressive once the Drunken Master had finally run out of steam. Even still, most were stunned to see that the momentum of the fight had shifted. Even still, most were stunned to see that the momentum of the fight had shifted to Augustus, even if only briefly. And a big part of his ability to do this was that Emmanuel had found ways to pick holes in Floyd's Philly shell. I've recently come across a fight breakdown from a hype channel that claims to know how Julio Cesar Chavez picked apart the Philly shell, and I'll be addressing that in depth at the end of this video. But for now, let's take a look at a few smart tactics that worked for the Drunken Master. Augustus tended to set up his power punches with jabs, targeting the small opening that the Philly shell position inherently leaves around the chest to the chin, depending on guard position. Targeting one made it much harder for Floyd to defend the other. He would then throw his power punches after the jab had prompted Mayweather to create more openings by either tightening his guard
They stinking the whole
or
fucking
turning.
time, man. Oh, bing.
The Drunken Master also took advantage of the forearm frame commonly paired with the shell against Mayweather, instantly targeting his
hooks
exposed
in
ribs
his body.
anytime Mayweather tried to create some distance.
Oh,
But a huge inherent problem with facing the Philly shell is
God.
the powerful counters that derive from head movement. But Augustus had a smart way to deal with these head movement threats as well, targeting Mayweather's side whenever he crouched, and anticipating the roll and pull counter so that he could in turn counter the counter.
ooh, oh my God.
By
Hey.
throwing the entire kitchen sink at Mayweather, Augustus was pushing
Okay,
the fight
he making it
further
seem like
than
some of these
anyone
niggas
had
is going with the
anticipated.
fight, man. Hey, he making it seem like these niggas is going win. It's good, dog.
However, for every barrage of well-crafted combinations that Augustus used to frustrate Mayweather, Floyd would come back with a few sharp, tight, stinging shots that seemed to bother Augustus much worse. And this afforded Mayweather the ability to pile on even more punches. But astonishingly, Augustus recovered every time and came back even stronger.
Only shorts, man.
Perhaps hoping to break the stalemate, in round 6,
Bing.
both men planted themselves mid-ring, stood in place, and refused to give an inch.
Ooh, oh, this, yo.
In the end, it was Mayweather who broke the standoff, walking himself back to a defensive position on the ropes.
Ooh.
After the bell sounded the end of the round, Floyd, a man who would later shrug off an intentional groin shot like someone on the street was trying to hand him a coupon, seemed uncharacteristically fired up.
This is a good ass
Then,
fight. He's excited.
Bizarrely, in round 7, Mayweather switched to southpaw.
Ooh.
Whether this was because he had injured his hand, as he would later reveal was the case, just looking to give Augustus another look,
That boy.
or simply showing off because he felt Augustus was done, we may never know. What we can know is that Mayweather had his best moment of the fight from a stance he rarely, if ever, fought from, pummeling Augustus with a
Boom, boom,
barrage
boom,
of
boom.
well-placed punches.
Got him.
In round 8,
Oh.
Augustus returned the favor, switching to southpaw himself and targeting Pretty Boy's body like it owed him money. By the
God.
standards of the rest
God.
of the fight, round 8
Bing.
was fairly slow.
Bing.
But as it turned out,
The way
it
he's
was
just
only the
fucking up
calm
his body and
before
the
the
hooks is
storm.
crazy, man. They are titans just standing in that ring taking all these blows, bruh. It's yo.
Both men had been through absolute hell. But in the end, it was Mayweather's
These two
cold
fights are so not
calculation
even
that
this
made the
close, bro.
difference. He kept backing up, inch by inch,
They're
staying
getting there.
just out of distance,
YouTuber
all the
fights are
while
getting there.
baiting a wary Augustus into a hard body shot that seemed to take all of the steam out of him. Augustus bravely marched forward, but his movement was severely stunted. Compared to his normal antics, the Drunken Master seemed frozen in place. And even when he thought a bit, Mayweather was still landing at will. Augustus put on his best poker face, but Mayweather was not fooled.
Yeah,
and
bro, he
piled
knows.
on until Augustus's corner mercifully threw in the towel.
It's over.
Afterwards, Mayweather spoke of the skills of the Drunken Master, saying that he had heard that Augustus had been repeatedly robbed, and he definitely believed that to be the case. He stated that his record did not reflect his skills. Ever the perfectionist, Floyd at times seemed almost apologetic, even though his performance and his heart had been impressive. In the
Man.
end, Floyd gave the Drunken Master a painful defeat but also
That
added
was a
to his
good-ass
legend.
fight.
Each fight that Mayweather won from then on, validating
Yes,
how
sir.
incredible it was that Augustus had achieved what he had. Now,
That nigga
time
still
to do
has it
something
long.
difficult. I've run across a popular video from a hype and storytelling channel that has suddenly changed to my format,
Oh.
claiming that they know how Julio Cesar Chavez cracked Roger Mayweather's Philly shell. To set the fight up, they used the same technique points in the same order as I use in my videos, like how the narrow stance affects head movement versus a squared up stance, with slightly different wording.
Hey.
Sure, Chavez's forward posture and stance left him wide open, but it also allowed him the full range of lateral head movement to either side. If Chavez had used a more sideways narrow stance, he would have been limited to only having the full range of head movement on one side.
The more bladed the stance you fight from, the smaller a target you present, but the less able to slip away from the side you are facing.
A square posture provides lateral head movement in either direction. In contrast, a more narrow posture provides for greater protection and allows greater lateral movement, but only in one direction. This wouldn't be too bad, except that when it comes to Chavez, rather than try to analyze the dynamics of the fight and teach how he defeated Mayweather and his shell, they instead used the same points in order for my style breakdown on Chavez, only applying it to the fight with Mayweather. Chavez's forward stance helped him move laterally to cut off the ring.
Chavez is one of the best ring cutters in history.
Rather than directly chase his opponent, he instead traced a diagonal path towards the corner.
He understood the geometry
Oh,
of
look
the
at
ring.
yeah, look at the narrowness.
Widening his stance as he approached the ropes. This ensured that he could move to either side with ease, changing directions at a moment's notice to thwart his competitor's escape.
How to step in at angles to take away space.
Chavez had a
Wait, I don't know if
surprisingly
he's
active
pointing out
guard,
that.
but it was easy to miss as it was very subtle. He used slight catches, parries, and bumps to deflect punches.
To catch and parry and roll shots while he closed the gap. While he fought as a swarmer, his defense from the classic high guard was gorgeous.
This in part helped to set up Chavez's most effective pressure fighting tactic, shifting forward into southpaw to block off his opponent's pivot and double up on his attack.
He's talking about the guard.
This last element made Chavez's style totally symmetrical, granting him the ability to double up with whichever hand was closest.
Once in range, Chavez would throw with whichever hand Roger happened to be circling into.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
With whichever hand
I have not seen that. Hold on.
Roger happened to be circling into.
Yo, Roger? What the hell?
This is how Chavez could apply pressure with his head like a wrestler, much as the great Henry Armstrong used to do.
Which is his grappling game. Julio is unquestionably one of the best grapplers in boxing.
And this still wouldn't be so bad, except that when they attempt their own analysis, it's either incredibly vague or just makes no sense.
But his punch selection was Mayweather's biggest problem.
Yeah, I was like...
He spanned his left hook up close, which meant Mayweather's venomous right hand was stuck at home, on defense.
Overusing the lead hook up close or otherwise will not stop a Philly shot practitioner from punching with either hand, and is a terrible idea against a style built around predicting and countering power punches.
Bing. Bing. It looks like he can't even lead us.
It didn't work particularly well against Roger Mayweather, getting Chavez caught with the same powerful right that had felled many of Roger's prior competitors.
So what is he talking about? What was the other dude talking about? Oh my god.
Not to mention, it gave Mayweather several opportunities to escape the ropes when he would have otherwise been stuck. And then start firing back from a far superior position. This is because, far from having the rear hand occupied by the lead hook, the Philly shell practitioner...
You see how he's looking at his hand? He's looking at his hand.
This is because, far from having their rear hand occupied by the lead hook, the Philly shell practitioner can either turn and block to counter from a tighter inside angle, or use head movement to duck, or pull and counter. So I felt the need to give a warning here, please don't try this. I personally felt that the lead straight and overhand were the punches that made the difference for Chavez. The overhand worked well for both fights because Mayweather often failed to elevate his shoulder or duck his chin enough when circling out with the jab, frame,
Yeah, there it is.
or roll. I could grin and bear it when they screenshot the exact same picture I spent hours looking for my thumbnail.
Damn.
Or if they copy my titles, or even use the exact same image text. from my
Damn, I
last
got
video
into a
for
beef?
their next video.
Did I get into
However,
a beef?
using my work to build credibility
No.
so that they can provide bad, inaccurate information, that I need to speak up about.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's the last I'll have to say about it.
Hey,
For the
man.
modern martial artist, this has been David Christian,
Hey,
wishing you
Stop.
happy training.
Yo, David put a lot of work into his shit, man. David put a lot of hey, go back, Gil. David put a lot of work into his shit. I'm about to go back and subscribe. He put a lot of work into his shit, man. Y'all gotta chill out. Stop stealing his
Every once in a
content, man.
while, two
The modern martial artist, man. Sub up, man. That shit was good, man.